everybody. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. It is February 1st, 2023. Do we have a motion to open our meeting tonight?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are open. Good evening, everyone. As I mentioned, this is a meeting of the Finance Committee. We're going to get to that. Before we do that, I'd like to welcome Mr. St. Jean back to our group. It's been a little while, but glad to have you back with us, and glad you're doing well.
Thank you.
All right, before we start, we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, tonight's meeting is being video recorded and is also available via Zoom. On the agenda tonight, we are going to get right into our hearings. So first is going to be our Animal Control Officer, Miss Rebecca Tomlinson. Rebecca, you got the floor.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
So whenever you're ready.
I'm all set. Here's my small little budget.
Okay. We had a feeling it would be an easy one.
It's going to be easy. So I didn't know if any of you had any questions for me or...
Yeah, it looks almost identical to last year.
Right. The only increase that I had was the longevity.
Okay,
So,
that makes things really simple.
yeah.
That's,
So I didn't know if anybody...
You're eligible for longevity already?
Seems like I just started, huh, Mr. St. Jean?
How's things working out with the new vehicle and everything?
Love my new vehicle.
It's been good?
It's been excellent, yes, especially doing my barn inspections. No problems
So not
whatsoever.
getting stuck anymore?
No, I was hoping we would have some more snow. But we're not, and I know nobody likes the S word, but no, last year it was fantastic with the couple storms that we had. I didn't get
Yep.
stuck anywhere. I didn't have to bother DPW.
Good.
So no, it works out fantastic.
Good to
So
hear.
again,
Excellent.
thank you so much.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions for Rebecca while she's here? No? No questions.
thank you for making it easy.
Thanks for coming in.
Is this how we're gonna do this? We just do this slow and easy. We're gonna start out with the easiest.
Yes, that's how we're doing it. Thanks for coming in. We're not going to vote on any budgets tonight, and
Okay.
I don't foresee, asking you to come back. So.
Okay, excellent.
Thank
If I
you.
do, I mean, that's fine too.
Thank you.
But thanks for coming in tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All
Nice
right.
to see you again, Mr. St. Jean. Take care.
You too.
All right. Next up to the plate is Heather Chu, our Director of the Council on Aging.
Easy is easier. Good evening.
What page?
23.
23.
So I think mine was a little bit different. For the Board of Selectmen, I submitted 3 different budgets. Level funded, 1% increase, and catastrophic 5% cut, which I prefer to not even talk about.
Okay.
We have no big asks this year, no need for capital items. One thing I do want to put on your radar, though, is our heating system. It was when we replaced our air conditioning system 2.5 years ago, it was suggested that we're going to need to replace our heating system sooner rather than later. We're still okay, it's still limping along, but I think within the next year or two, that's a capital article we're going to need to come to you. And 2.5 years ago, the estimate came in at $36,000, so obviously it's not going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
Not an emergency, not something we need this year. I just don't want to come to you 2 years from now and it's the first you've heard of it. So I just want to put that on the radar. But this year, we have really no asks.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if you could tell them what has been done on the building.
It's exciting. Okay, so again, 2.5 years ago, you approved our article for building maintenance and upgrades. It was through the EMA so that we could become the shelter. So we've installed a handicap accessible bathroom should we need to provide overnight accommodations. We've replaced the flooring in the entire building, which hadn't been done since 1999, so it was in need. We have a brand new gas-powered generator. We are in the process of installing handicap accessible doors, the push button ones. We had a little delay, but that was just because of production. So those should be complete pretty soon. What else did we do? We have security cameras now. Did I miss anything?
network
It's been exciting,
Wi-Fi.
like a new building.
That's great.
Yeah, it is. We've extended our Wi-Fi too. A lot of our seniors use our Wi-Fi. On the weekends, they'll come and just park in the parking lot and use our Wi-Fi. So we've extended that, so no matter where you are in the lot, they can hit that.
Yeah, I think that when we had when the meeting was there a couple weeks ago at the Council on Aging
Yeah.
for the Title V, the building looked great. I mean, it was really
So we're very
nice.
proud of it.
Going back to the heating system, is, and maybe Mr. Kelly can chime in on this, you know how like Mass Save has programs for residential customers when they have to replace like a furnace or something, there can be like a discount. Would there be anything available like that to a municipality?
We're a green community, we get various grants, we'd be exploring that.
Okay.
And any way we can
Save.
grab a grant
Yeah,
from the state or the feds, we will. The only problem we have right now is the person who's supposed to be the primary grant writer for the town, that position is vacant.
it's a problem.
Is there any status on that?
We'll discuss it after you get through this.
Okay.
So, and I just want to give you one more statistic, 'cause I like to toot the COA's horn any chance I can. We worked on our annual report for the book, and just to let you know, so we didn't track our numbers in 2020, 2021 because of COVID. I mean, we did a lot, but we weren't having a lot of people in-house, so they couldn't scan in. But for 2022, we were actually up 5.18% participation from 2019, which was the year prior to the COVID. So we service 772 unduplicated seniors. So unduplicated being they came in for at least one program or activity that year. And like I said, that's a 5% increase for us. We're really excited, and we just hope that we continue to grow.
Sure.
One major change in this budget is we've moved the position of janitor, custodian. We're putting those positions in the town building budget, and for two reasons. One is that's where it belongs, and the second is if we needed for any purpose someone to help out in one building versus not helping out because they're assigned to one building. It just didn't make sense, especially when we're putting together with baling wire and duct tape what we can to keep all the buildings running.
Is that an issue with the union at all?
As long as they're still union positions, they don't care where we put them in the budget.
I mean, as far as assigning them to different buildings.
There was never any real assignment to the building as far as the contract was concerned. And we have talked to the union.
Heather, how's it working out with the outreach coordinator since we added that position?
She's wonderful. We had somebody come on board the beginning of November, and she's hit the ground running. She's a blessing. She shares her time. She works for Child and Family Services in New Bedford part-time and for us part-time. So the two positions have really complemented each other. And like I said, she's hit the ground running. We're very lucky to have her.
Okay, good.
I think you maybe should discuss the MMA and future plans.
Oh, no, that's okay. We'll reserve that for another meeting. They want to go home.
All right.
He's gonna keep us here for a while, I
He
have a
is.
feeling. So, does anybody have any questions for Heather while she's here? Okay, all right, Heather, thank you for coming in.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, so next on the agenda, we're gonna take up the reserve fund transfer. So we have, it's from Legal Services, a transfer amount of $45,000. This is with regards to it's a multi-level lawsuit over the past 2 years. This is involving,
Well, we have $67,500 in our legal expense fund. We have 17,000 in land court line in the legal expenses. And in our budget, we're going to be transferring from the treasurer collector's office another 10,000, I believe, off the top of my head, into legal services from there for tax title attorney. As I've told the board previously, I believe this board, I've told a number of boards, well, we found 450,000 to 500,000 in uncollected taxes. We're going after them. And as such, the 17,000 that was in land court, we're going to need to preserve the rights of the town. And that used to be transferred in May to pay the part of the deficit for the legal expenses. But right now, we can't forecast that. And so, because we think we're going to be needing some of that money to preserve all the liens. And as such, right now, we're expended all of the 67,500. About 45,000 is for that case so far this year, and the rest is various expenses.
so it's, it says in the memo here that, more funding will be needed through June 30th, 2023.
We're probably going to end up having to use free cash to take care of some of the deficits,
From legal.
for both legal and others.
You know what the balance will be after this with the reserve fund?
We haven't touched it yet,
No, we haven't.
but we're going to be coming in for another 41 or 42 because we just lost the engine of the ambulance. Not the one we had repaired, the other one.
Which one? One or two?
Huh?
One or two?
I don't. Off the top of my head, I just had the fire chief come in. And we also have a heating system in one of the fire stations that is totally gone. So that would be the two expenses.
What, is this covering that lawsuit from BJ or?
It's all our expenses.
Because there's a new one, right? There's a new lawsuit, I saw it.
There's a lawsuit every other week. But this is covering the expenses to date.
Yep.
Including the deductible for our insurance for the various cases.
Okay.
Okay, so this, this has to get paid. Okay, so again, we have the amount of $45,000 being transferred from the reserve fund to legal services.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
What will this leave us in the reserve fund?
Hasn't been touched, he said.
You've got 150,000 now, so the 45 will put it down to 105, and then you're looking at probably 65 once the fire request comes in.
So
Does
we
that
haven't,
include the
we
ambulance?
haven't expended any.
No.
Sorry.
No. Okay, so we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. All right, so next up, can we get an update as to anything new going on?
Well, I again put the latest revenue sheet
That's what
on
we
your,
have in front of us, okay?
yep, 808 and change.
Can we put a date on the bottom, just so that way we remember as we get new copies?
Yes, I'll do that.
Thank you. In case I
It's,
forget.
the major problem with this is we have a new governor. And as such, all of the timetable for the state is pushed back. So the new governor does not have to file anything as far as her budget until March 1st.
So we're not-
Today was the date for the legislature and the new administration to agree on revenue figures. And then they'll go into, hopefully, beyond March 1st for the governor's House 1. I would hope that by July 1 we will have a budget out of the state.
How can we do that before town meeting, like, I mean, after town?
No, I mean, because I've seen years when the new governor's been elected that the state hasn't passed the budget until December. And so they go on to a 1/12 budget.
Oh,
And
okay.
so we'd have to then budget with the governor's figures. And as you know, the governor's figures are the low figures. And then the House and the Senate increase UGGA and Chapter 70. So our basis probably will be the governor's figures through town meeting. Our real problem is that I have the increase in, from 2.5, increase in the cherry sheet. So tax levy and state aid are pretty much on course what they are every year. However, your local receipts are very tight. And 24,000 and change increase in local receipts is not a lot. And you're right at about 2.5% with everything.
Local receipts, what's the average growth that we've seen up until this year?
You're looking at somewhere, anywhere from a couple 100,000 to 100.
So we're
We're down.
Where's the
75%
lowest?
down
Yeah.
expected this year from our lowest.
Yeah, we were 350 from 21 to 22. And then we were at like 96 from 22 to 23, and now 24, so
Oh,
really dropped.
what's the cause of the drop?
People aren't buying new cars.
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah.
The other part is,
People aren't buying anything.
Not buying anything.
There was a surge in automobile purchases right during COVID.
Mhm.
yep,
I'm not going on vacation, therefore I'm gonna buy myself a new car. That only lasts so long.
Yeah, well, that was until the chips weren't available and nobody was buying.
Nobody's got cars through the roof.
and
The used car inventory
even though
increased
we're
finally.
doing very well chasing all those unpaid taxes, those are not available for this year.
Mhm.
And these are unpaid, like, real estate taxes or everything?
Real estate, personal property. It was almost 500,000 when we did the investigation.
Over X number of years, or?
Yeah, we didn't go that far back because you can't lean that far back. It's just like when we went and we found out about the school choice and the school budget
The
and
double.
the assessment, we went back only 10 years. And that was averaging over 100,000 in most years.
Yeah. So we have a lien in place, so for those.
We've
there's a lien-
advertised now for most. We'll be advertising for the rest. And especially the FY '22 taxes, money's starting to come in.
We just want to make sure they don't sell the homes without the lien in place, otherwise
Oh
we'll never
no,
get the
that's
money.
why we've already started all the process. We're in the advertising stage.
Okay.
And anything that is in past years that had a lien, all we have to do is add to it. We don't have to re-lien.
So let me, I can ask a stupid question. If we did our budgets and paid expenses, assuming that $500,000 was here, how did we, where does the town get the shortfall when the revenue hasn't come in because people haven't paid? I guess my math mind has a disconnect, right? My revenue's supposed to be X, my expenses are Y, X isn't there to pay Y. So how did the town get the money to pay for it? Or was that gonna be $500,000 that would have been free cash?
Part of it, yes, part of it is free cash.
Okay,
The other part is that when you're looking at your revenue, well, the 500,000 now will be free cash.
okay,
But when you're looking at your revenue, we've gone back multiple years. We're
Yeah.
fiscal 18. So,
it's a large number over a number of years, but in any one year, it's not that significant of a number.
correct. Well, it is in the last couple. And then we're looking at whether the viability of going to auction for some pieces, seeing if others are in actuality buildable, unbuildable, postage stamp. But you clear it off the books.
Yeah.
And then it helps with when you're looking at what you have to do to, when you're reserving the overlay, because it impacts on your overlay too. It's just going office by office and finding what's there. What should be there, what is and isn't, and what is there that shouldn't be there.
So if you, when you do the liens and they, well, let's say they pay the lien, where does that money go? Does that just go back in the general fund or to reserve? I mean, free cash.
It goes back in general.
Okay.
It goes into our receipts and then it goes forward.
Okay.
Because remember, it's already a particular year.
Mhm. Okay.
It's a tax bill that you're carrying on the books for fiscal 20, fiscal 21.
Mhm.
We clear it off the books.
Yeah, because I kind of get what she's saying. She's like, okay, well, we're expecting this amount of money on the budget, but the people didn't pay it, so that money is not there anymore.
Yeah, well, when you're
So now
looking,
it's,
when you're looking over a number of years,
Yeah. That's the key, it's the number of years.
Yeah.
It's not painful in any one particular year, but now that we've done it,
but
it's a nice chunk of change to
Yeah.
get back for us.
and it's like free cash, it's not something you can count on, but it also clears it off the books as far as the overlay goes,
okay.
because DOR is reserved, is saying,
So much.
you haven't collected that.
No.
So we can't give you credit for that.
So is some of the legal services being utilized to chase some of this money down?
Not yet.
No?
We've done it all in-house up to this point.
Mhm.
If we have to go forward and go to land court, or however we have to do it to go to auction, if we need to go to auction or to take title in the town's hand.
Mhm.
Can we push the legal costs to the resident who hasn't paid the taxes and caused us to have to take that
After the
action?
If you're
sale.
taking the property,
If we're taking the property, then okay,
Yeah.
right? So,
that's what it would be, when we take the property and the legal costs. We've done everything so far in-house.
that assumes that we can convert the property into cash.
Or, depending on what kind of property it is, it might be something you want to keep for the town as open space.
Mhm.
So are these mostly like abandoned properties we're talking about?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I just want to get them off the books, so I don't have the negative from the state that you've got 500,000 sitting there that you haven't collected and we're not giving you credit for it.
I'm surprised this wasn't picked up in the audits over the years.
Really? More salt into that, really?
Really?
You see how quick he put his arms down? He's ready to jump over that table for you.
Remember,
We fired them, remember?
I asked the auditors to leave.
That's true.
That's good.
We have a new audit firm.
Excellent.
Okay, so any other pertinent updates that we should know about?
Yeah, Bristol County retirement, it's 102,308 increase.
What was that number again, please?
102,308. Everything else of the budget busters are all estimates that I have so far, and they're real back of the envelope estimates. We've gone out on RFP for health insurance. I've gone out asking for quotes for P&C insurance. We're going out with an RFP on legal.
Where do we stand with contracts and with town?
We have a laborers contract, we have an AFSCME contract, we have a fire contract that isn't signed, but it is voted. We went through it to take out the he, she's, and put they and take out
What do we have yet to go?
place. And the new certified union with the steel workers,
The pronouns.
Are you kidding me?
Who's that?
middle managers.
Mr. Kelly, I want to just backtrack a minute. They're taking out what?
Pardon?
They're taking out he, she, and replacing it?
With they.
Why?
Because that's the way things
We're
are done
avoiding
nowadays.
potential lawsuits is
Yes.
what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Is
I
it-
won't even ask about that.
So police is still ongoing, and we're close?
No,
Oh, okay.
we'll probably go to the JLMC.
You mentioned the ambulance earlier. Can we, are you going for reserve funds for that, or do you want to do the EMS receipts?
Reserve fund, because we have other things that the EMS receipts are still out there that I have to pay for. We didn't get the grant.
We didn't get the grant for the breathing equipment?
Are you serious?
I do believe that I remember mentioning that like 2 years ago,
Yeah.
that we needed to be prepared if we didn't get the grants.
Because there was that,
But that wasn't a
chief
whole lot. That
did
was.
mention that as a possibility.
320.
No.
Okay, so we're looking to assume, I'm going to assume he's replacing the engine, not the whole ambulance.
Yeah, it's the engine. It'll be like 21, 22,000.
We can't do that with 500, even with the breathing apparatus.
It would be advisable right now to, if we need to do it out of the reserve fund. and look at down the road if we have deficits, then to take care of them. As either in May when we can move money around or through free cash, which is what Todd is advising. He and I are discussing it back and forth.
Because I'm thinking, I mean, that's what the EMS fund is for that stuff.
But right now,
Yeah.
it would be, there might be other expenses coming down the pike that would be more appropriate for that.
So when it comes time to vote for the reserve fund transfer for the.
I'll have the chief come in.
Yeah, I think it'll be
Mhm.
important for us to fully understand what those other expenses are.
Right.
I did get a heads up that there were other expenses in passing at the mall from the chief. I'll be paying you a visit, I think were the words.
Yeah, well, we're also looking at the fact that there might be a major fire apparatus as a free cash item.
I don't know if we've got a fire apparatus described as a,
$420,000 worth. A truck.
oh yeah, not lost. Not lost on. I mean, the last time we bought an engine, we had to bond it, didn't we?
No, we got the ladder.
We got the ladder. and-
You could,
Yeah, but that was wicked cheap, yeah, that was. we got that for
you could borrow it,
Lexington.
but I could also, with your approval and the approval of the Board of Selectmen, if they wanted to, I can pay for it out of free cash.
I guess I think.
Where would that put us though,
Yeah.
What do you mean?
if we took 400,000? This is obviously this
Down
is
the road.
Down the road.
I would also, with free cash, I would be, I'm looking at this, you might as well write this one down. $1,354,903 is your free cash number.
1.3.
1354.
903.
And this is the wish list from my point of view, not the agents, the departments, or the school. But I'm looking at a technology article of around 250,000.
For
School and town.
what? This is your department.
What are we getting? We just spent a whole bunch of money in the last few years
Yeah.
getting new equipment.
Munis,
Okay.
the police server
Maintenance server,
is
which they
dead.
probably should have paid for from the building, but we know they didn't.
Yeah, so, and it's
Okay.
dead. If it, we hope it doesn't fail because we can't restart it.
Right.
And that's about 80 of the
How old is that
township.
machine, do we know?
Off the top of my head, no, but I'm just going over this as a Reader's Digest version. We'll bring people.
I love
So,
that
I
stuff.
mean,
Okay,
it's-
that's fine.
It
Yep.
sounds like the police server is not something we should wait on either.
No.
Then can we move on that now before we end ourselves in a?
We're going through putting together, going out to bid for it
Gotcha.
and everything else. We've been meeting with various folks.
Because you're gonna
on
need
it.
it, because if there's any delay on chip shortages. Because I just replaced our server with my corporation, and we had like a month and a half, 2-month wait for a $27,000 machine, so.
But we've got
We
to
need to
do
do
this
that
as
pretty soon.
procurement.
Right.
Okay.
So we're looking at, and that's school and town. The
The tech.
Yep.
I mean, I think
technology.
the technology costs are probably gonna be a recurring thing. I would
Yeah,
imagine
and
every
the
year.
munis-
That's not gonna be 250,000 every year.
Well, I hope not.
No, no, this is free cash article.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so
Uh,
250 technology.
General stabilization, you're gonna need to put 150,000 in to keep your 10%, so you keep your bond rating. Infrastructure stabilization, I'm penciling about anywhere from 100,000 to 200,000.
I'm sorry, what infrastructure?
Stabilization account. OPEB, 100,000 to keep it on track. Compensated balances, 25,000. MS4, 50,000. And then I've got just a general building security, which would be monies to harden all of the buildings, including the school buildings, of 100,000. And then you've got the fire truck and deficits.
The fire truck is approximately 400.
Was it
Pretty
473?
cheap.
425.
Is that a squad or an engine? Do we know?
I'll have the chief tell you.
Okay.
What was the,
For 425,
before
it
the
would
fire
be the
truck,
largest
there
thing
was
that's
one
out
for
there.
That's cheap.
100,000, what was that?
Building security, hardening the buildings.
Okay.
And that's all the buildings, including the schools.
What was it for? 50?
Building security.
Building security, shouldn't that be lumped in with IT?
No, this is like film on the windows,
Oh, okay.
hardening the buildings.
Oh, 1.3 mil altogether.
Make sure that we don't have
Uses
a
up all our
problem.
cash.
Yep.
If all this.
Is
And
that gonna be, is that
this
gonna
is
be
just
school
for-
or?
This is just for discussion purposes. We
Right.
haven't even refined this list yet.
So that building security, is that including school? Because aren't they going through some kind of a?
School, they went through an audit.
Miguel?
They went through an audit.
So this does or does not include that?
Yes,
It does, okay.
this is the start of it.
Yeah, this all still has to go through the selectmen and everything.
Yeah. No, this is the start of hardening the buildings.
I'm talking about these budgets you just given, these articles. These still have to go.
This is just very
Discussion.
preliminary.
Yeah, this is the wish list.
This is to give you the broad picture. We've got $808,000 in increased revenue. We have $1.3 million plus in free cash. And you're looking at,
About 1.3 on your wish list.
yeah. And you're looking at, I'm sure, more money coming in from the schools. They were talking about an 80,000 ask for telephone system. You've got somewhere between 100 and 150 coming in from Old Colony that they're looking for, but could be spread maybe over 5 years for the feasibility study.
Is our town bearing the brunt of that?
But we just have started the discussions.
Right. So what's the next step with that?
I'm going to have Aaron come in and talk to you folks. It's going to be a lengthy discussion. We just had a discussion with their building committee, and they had two options, one for a 5-year spread out for the borrowing to pay the feasibility study. Half the price would come on the towns, half would come on the district, or maybe a 2-year spread it out. And that's with borrowing, and I asked them, well, what if the town wanted to spend out of free cash or something, their share, pay their share and not have borrowing, especially if interest rates keep climbing. And the other 4 communities were willing to roast me for asking. But I think we should explore all options.
Well, you know, you mentioned all these articles, this big wish list. One thing that that does concern me is legal fees and where that's gonna head, because we don't know, that's an unknown. And that could grow pretty quickly and get out of hand. So I think, you know, we need to keep that in mind and keep a little reserve just in case this issue doesn't, it continues to be ongoing, which, you know, we don't know where this is gonna end.
Well, that's why we're looking at any more deficits come out of free cash. It's, you're at 88 to 90% reliance on residential tax.
Mhm.
You've got very little
Industry.
in the next couple of years, other than solar arrays coming forward as far as development goes.
So that's, kind of goes back to the importance of having a town planner, right?
Yep.
To see if there's any ways to develop any other revenue sources, I guess. I mean, because, I mean, we can't constantly expect this to be on the backs of the residents, because going forward, you know, 5, 10 years from now, how are we gonna fund our operational budget with just the residential property tax? I
You
mean,
don't have 10 years.
right, I mean, it's not,
You have
less than.
4 to 6.
Yeah, so it's kind of a scary thought there.
I can pull the purse strings in, as you know, that's part of what I do, but you also have an infrastructure that's falling apart. We're
Yep.
looking at Slocum Street with the ARPA funds. I mean, look at what we did with the union contracts we've settled. The first year was a 0, and we had a signing bonus that we paid for with ARPA funds. Then the second and third years were 2%.
Which is, you know, a lot of concerns for a lot of folks in town who are on fixed incomes, and they're faced with all these inflationary costs now. Whether it's, you know, increase in utilities, their property taxes.
60% for X.
You know, and
Probably
then-
more after that big fire in Connecticut.
And then, you know, this pending Title V issue, which, do we know if the Mass DEP took a vote? Because they were gonna actually vote on those 2 amendments on January 30th, correct?
Well, there's
Or was it
legislation filed to do a moratorium
6
on it.
months, right?
There is the Buzzards Bay Coalition, which I think might have been the people who instigated all this,
Mhm.
came out and wanted to say that the replacement of the septic systems was not a viable option. They're trying to impose the 20-year permit, similar to the MS4 permit, on the communities.
Well, either way, that's still gonna fall on the back of the residents.
Yeah,
Even with, you know, with a 20-year, the watershed permit.
well, actually, you've got your wastewater plant. That's in the can,
Mhm.
so that's good.
Right.
You've got no nitrogen-sensitive area yet defined in town. You just have watersheds that could happen. And you're just buying time over probably the next 2 years to see how you can define it. One of the advantages you have is you are going to be taking care of some of the problems on the Lake Street water bodies. That can be part of that permit. So that can be a town effort in that permit. And so that can help you comply. At some point, for economic development, especially if you could get some grants or you could get a no-interest loan, you could sewer part of the town and it would take care of your economic development, also take care of that complying with the permit. But all of that is just stuff we have to address. And it's good that people have it in the back of their mind, because all of these things are coming down the road at the same time.
Right, I mean, the thing that I have trouble with is,
You
know, they
you've had-
expect the homeowners to put this denitrification system in, right? And they don't even know if that's gonna mitigate the problem. So, I mean, so you're gonna potentially spend $40,000 on something that doesn't even correct the problem.
Well, first of all, you're gonna spend 30 or 40,000 for installation. Then you have the monthly cost for the electricity that it costs to run it. Then you have the 6-month cost for the maintenance.
It's
And-
insane.
And 3 out of the 4 systems, no one is sure that they can operate in a frozen environment. So I don't know why they're proposing them for New England.
I don't think any resident in our town should be subjected to having, to being forced to put this kind of system on their property.
I
I
agree.
don't think it'll come to that. I think it'll be killed before that.
Well, the real problem is if whoever is instigating this, instead of threatening a lawsuit, files a lawsuit,
Yeah.
That gets thrown out.
it won't get,
Well, appealed all the way up to whatever.
if the state appeals it.
Yeah.
But let's say the executive branch of government decides to settle the lawsuit, then any moratorium filed by the legislature is null and void. Because the court will put it as a stipulated judgment.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on this is if the state is gonna mandate something like this, then they should pay for it. They should pay for it. No, I don't want no zero interest loan attached to my debt on my property. The heck with that. You know, they should pay for it if they're gung ho.
State's infamous for unfunded mandates.
Yeah, and you're not gonna get an argument from me, but it's how long the towns can push this off. Or stay out of the umbrella. Because if you're not a nitrogen sensitive area, then you don't have to do all these various mitigations or remediations. Anyway, let's get back to finances.
All right,
So that's just the quick picture. You're looking at 2.46 of the general operating budget is the revenue increase. So it's right around the 2.5%. As you know, I've asked the town departments to come in with level funded budget. A 1% increase in mandated costs and a 5% cut. So we have those there. I am sending recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen will then make their recommendations and we'll go forward. The town is, for almost every budget, is very tight. There are some budgets like technology, we have some increases. The licenses for munis have gone up, stuff like that, but almost every budget otherwise is very tight.
Like every
The
year.
mandated union increases are 2%.
It's the cost of living,
That's the cost of living,
2%,
yeah.
so they're just getting a cost of living increase.
Well, if they have a milestone with longevity,
Yeah, right, right.
the real expense it will have to come from the other side of the ledger. That's where I do not know what they're doing yet. I've moved some positions around like we discussed with the janitorial ones just to make sense, but there's no increase. The only money increases are the town accountant position, the treasurer collector position to put them in the marketplace, and the town planner position. Other than that, and despite what the unions say, my employment contract has an increase for me of 0.25%, which was just a rounding thing. It's not a rosy budget.
Well, they never are.
They never are, I was just gonna say that.
The era of municipalities being able to rely on UGGA and Chapter 70 are over for increases in those accounts. The state and the federal government is putting most of the money that the municipalities are eligible for into grants. So you've got to pursue grants
Yeah, you gotta
to
go
pay
work for it.
for things. You've got to pursue grants to make sure that your infrastructure is going to be updated. Any new way of doing things has to be paid for through a grant. Most of those type of grants are the concern of the schools. We're eligible on our side for infrastructure grants, but that's pretty much it.
The Massachusetts millionaire's tax that was passed in November.
It's for education and transportation.
Right, so that's what I was, education I remember, so it's transportation.
Yep.
Public education, roads, bridges, public transportation. When will we see that?
Well, they've got to collect it first. They've got an estimate that,
Because it's in effect,
Yeah, I was gonna say, that
2023.
went, that
Yeah.
went in effect right away, right?
yeah, they've got an estimate of $1 billion, but who knows? They've got more money than they've ever had, but it's
Yeah,
going,
then they returned it.
it's going
Mm.
into
And
grants.
what
It's
happens
not,
if you're a millionaire?
it's not going
$1 million
into,
worth of income.
Yep.
Doesn't
So it's
matter.
not, not based on assets that you have?
No, it's an
Income.
income.
You
It's
sell
an
it to
income,
income.
so 4%, it's a 4%
You sell a house that's
surtax.
$1 million, you get now. The
It's a
next year,
4%
you don't.
surtax on all your income. So
Yep.
anything over $1 million worth of income will have a 4% surtax associated with it.
Yep.
Which our town of Acushnet voted
I voted no against that.
36% yes, 64% no. I did look
Yeah.
and see.
I voted no on that one. And by no means am I a millionaire, but I still voted no against it, so.
But in theory, that should, if the state holds true, just like the net investment income tax was supposed to go to fund Medicare, but it actually doesn't go to fund Medicare. Like, if we get that money, in theory, if the state gets that money and it needs to go for education, we should see that hit our bottom line at some point. In 2025, or fiscal year 24 to 25 then, or something, or 23 to 24.
The state tax revenue forecast is 40.41 billion that they set today.
I can tell you that is not gonna happen, because you know how many people moved out of the state.
And, no, that's the figures
Okay.
they're setting today. 1 billion from the new surtax. And, so you're looking at, even in the current fiscal year, 193 million more than what they had estimated last January.
193,
For fiscal '23,
yep,
their estimate was, where they are, their new estimate for the current fiscal year
yep.
is 193 million higher than it was to create the 2023 budget.
Okay, and so what the state turned back, wasn't it $3 billion?
So they've got the money, but they're not going to put it into the UGGA or Chapter 70. They're not even putting it into Chapter 90. They extended the year for Chapter 90, but they said 400 million for a 2-year period, but it was 200 million for a 1-year period. So all they did is they gave you more time to pay. They're putting all of this additional funding into the various grant programs, whether it's MassWorks, whether it's a community compact money. That's where the money's you're going to have to go and get that money.
Well, the state's gonna start taking in more money with gambling revenue now, right? So just think about that for a minute, right? So the state is dependent on gambling and the sale of marijuana, right? As part of revenue sources.
Yep.
Isn't that kind of ironic, Bob?
Sure is,
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
sure is.
Compared to like 20, 30 years ago, that was all taboo.
Yep. Not even,
You tax it, you get money. It's a sin tax.
Well, it's, what it really comes down to is, if you were into the marijuana business quickly, a number of communities, especially the ones that had the grow facilities, not the sale facilities, they're all looking at probably $1 million more in revenue.
Yeah, we shot it down.
Well, a lot of,
And we're a farming community.
Yeah. I think we'd be the most appropriate one
yeah,
for
but
it.
you don't farm it, that's the
so
problem.
we're gonna have to reconsider that.
Your revenue comes from, some of
kinda
it
late
is
now.
from the siting of the facility, but most of it is from the personal property tax of the computers and all the machinery that you go into one of those facilities, you gotta put hazmat suits on, you go through multiple airlocks, it's
Yeah,
like
it's expensive.
going into NASA.
Well, just to get an application, the application process is a non-refundable process. And if you don't know the right people, you probably weren't getting approved. And then you don't get your $25,000 back after applying for the application.
We had 3 stores in Millbury, but the grow facility that they put in the factory buildings that used to house the print plant for the Globe and the Herald, it was close to $1 million a year in revenue.
There are a number of growth facilities that were going bankrupt because their permitting process was taking, they thought it was gonna be 3 to 6 months, it was 2 years plus.
And you're gonna see a lot of these entities bought up by the Seagrams.
Yep.
Yeah, the big guys. Yep. R.J. Warnold and all them.
Basque.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, last time I checked, it's still illegal federally, right?
Yes. I never understood that.
Oh, yeah, but you got people driving around smoking all the time.
What?
I cannot accept a client that is
Sorry about
touching
the,
business.
No?
Yeah, there's one for the
I cannot
record.
accept a client.
I
can't
wrenched
work
my
for
knee,
someone
so-
who has a significant amount of their revenue coming from what they leaf touching business.
Really?
This is what I delivered
illegal
to the planning board and the board of selectmen so far. I apologize for the, where the staple is, but I hit the wrong button. I didn't realize it until afterwards.
All right, so this is for us to just review.
I can quickly say that we were exploring some way of combining the inspectional planning departments, whether into one or two. And part of the reason for it is when we started to look into it.
Tomorrow, right?
Hmm?
It's the meeting for tomorrow.
Well, that's for the solar
Oh, okay.
issue. But there was so many deficiencies in all of those departments that we ended up thinking, and feel safe, procedures that were supposed to be in place that weren't, that you ended up with multiple sets of plans for the one project, none of them signed, no as-bills, no record of approvals by any of the folks that should have approved it. And so, I'm one who doesn't believe in just trusting hiring competent professionals. I also want a fail-safe system in place in case something happens to those
Trust but verify.
professionals down the road.
Exactly.
So all these things listed in specific issues, this is
Right now,
happening to us.
it's happened, well, it's obviously happened to you over a number of years,
Yeah.
because some of these projects go back a couple of years. A lot of them are pending projects. I will say that part of the impetus was we started looking into some of the solar projects, and that's why my beard turned white.
So lack of proper notice with reputation of character discussed. That's just in an open meeting, not being nice and playing nice in the sandbox?
Doing things that border on violations of law.
And therefore open us to litigation.
And chairs weren't reining folks in. Staff wasn't
Mm-hmm.
advising.
Well, that's not a problem with our committee.
No,
Nope.
you're not in the handout. But that's something we're trying to figure out how to address. We do have a building inspector that, at some point, I would encourage people to go by the office and meet. He's got 30 years' experience. He's a retiree from Mattapoisett.
Is that the one that's in Fairhaven, does both?
Not anymore in Fairhaven.
He's just here. Nice.
It seems to be the only way I can get people in here to
What's his name?
fix a mess.
What's the name?
The building inspector,
Yeah,
Andy Bobola.
I know, man.
He was at the last planning board meeting, maybe it was a Zoom.
And Mr. Kelly, do you want to get into scheduling now, like going forward?
Sure. Just so the committee knows, the Board of Selectmen has approved the following budgets. I'll read them out. I'll send them to you tomorrow, but I'll read them out now.
Okay.
And I'll also read out whether they're level funded or not. The moderator was level funded. Finance committee was approved.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. We're not
Level
using your money
funded.
anyway.
Reserve fund level funded. Appeals board level funded. Forestry was approved. Anything that's not level funded, there was a change in it, and I can discuss it once you schedule it, but I don't want to violate the open meeting law by discussing it now. Mr. Higgins will come in and cost us more legal fees. Cemeteries was approved and level funded. Veteran Services approved, level funded. Historical approved. Regional was something you hadn't seen before, but it was the proper terminology and account number that should have been used. And it's used for SERPED, the Housing Partnership, and I'm blanking on the third. I'll look it up. Those were in your miscellaneous budget in the past. And SERPED was an assessment. You shouldn't really pay an assessment when you get billed for services. It should be in a budget line. Debt service was approved. The pension to Bristol County was approved. Weights and measures was approved, level funded. Cable was approved. Now, the 7th, they're taking up the select board, miscellaneous, legal, town buildings, technology, assessors, treasurer collector, accountant, COA, library, and rec and parks. As you can see from the list, the first 4 are pretty much under the selectmen anyway. Technology is one that you're going to see substantial changes in because we've taken the technology, telephone, etc. from the various departments and put it all in one budget where it should be. And then on the 14th, it's public safety and town clerk. On the 28th, it's DPW and the enterprise. And we have yet to hear, other than probably in March, the school will be finished with their hearings.
On the 14th. They're meeting with who? The town clerk?
14th, public safety and town clerk and elections. So police, fire, EMS, EMA, animal control.
Okay.
No, control this. Oh, no. Sorry.
All right, so next week on the 8th, we have the park, library, and assessors confirmed. So, and then, so the 15th is not the school vacation week, it's the following week. Correct?
It's the week of the 20th.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's school vacation week.
So which do you have on the 8th?
So on the 8th, we have park, library, and assessors.
Okay.
So on the 15th,
See if we can get building, conservation, and golf. Ones that were scheduled for the 22nd.
I would say for building, the inspection departments and the planning department, it would probably be best to put them at the end because the board is still having discussions probably over the 7th and the 14th on whether they're going to do a reorganization or not. So I will forward the reorg possibility as well as status quo to you folks. We're looking at that right now.
so on the 15th, I guess we could have the town clerk come in.
We'll be done the public safety by the 15th.
So that would be like police, fire, EMS.
And
Yeah.
animal control.
Well, we already did animal control tonight.
Yeah, man.
Police, fire, EMS, EMA. I don't know if we should put town clerk in with that group. I mean, that's a lot.
There's almost no change in a number of these budgets from last year.
Okay,
I mean,
So they should be quick in theory.
all right.
yeah, I mean, I think police and fire both have gone down under a percentage point, but have gone down.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
Well, part of it with fire is we've lost a lot of
Senior people.
senior
Roger.
people, and we've got a lot of,
Yeah, even with the
new people
contractual
coming.
increases.
That includes the
Yeah.
contractual increase.
Okay.
As
And the
I
police
said,
department with all their
the
overtime and stuff?
instruction was bare bones.
So, at a high level,
And I told them I wouldn't submit a budget that wasn't bare bones.
so at a high level, if we're thinking about what is contractually obligated, right? It's the raises, right? And the raises are, because last year the budget didn't incorporate a raise because it came from ARPA. We're gonna have to bite the bullet, that's 2%.
And that's within the budgets this year.
And that's within the budgets this year. And so when we're talking about things coming in level funded, that's not level funded, that's level services, right? So level funded is gonna increase. So if we're just thinking about salaries, there's at least a 2% increase, and my understanding is that the school department's not a 2% increase.
The school I don't have control over.
So if we're thinking about just the raises, right? Salaries at the school is like 9.5 million bucks, something like that. I have the 2022 numbers at 9.1. That didn't include 2023s, which we know they increased, right? So call it 9.5. A 3% increase on that is close to $300,000. Then you tack on everybody else.
All right, let me just run through some. Select board, these are before the selectmen get to it. Select board, 0.18 decrease.
Okay.
In salary, and a total increase after is a 0.09 increase percentage-wise. So it's almost level funded. Town accountant with the raise to make it market is 4.17. But then we decreased expenses, so we've got a 1.82 expense.
So what you're saying is, don't stress about it yet, Sue.
There you go.
Short version.
Board of Assessors is a 1.34% increase.
And I guess
Treasurer
don't-
collector is
But
a
we don't have everybody,
6.43.
right? So we don't have everybody. And the concern that I have is that we've got a whole bunch that have taken a whole bunch of cuts, and then it'll be viewed as opportunities for others to go up because the cuts have been borne by other departments.
It's gotta be a shared burden throughout.
Thank you, yeah, exactly.
It's-
That's where I'm
Are
getting
you
at.
saying shared burden between the town and the,
Everybody.
Between all the departments.
All of the departments, that's all I'm saying. Like, we want to make sure that obviously where the cuts are happening, it's at the appropriate places and that it doesn't negatively impact us on the long term.
yes,
Because I think about it not just in 1 year increments, I think about it more long term, 2 to 3, 5, that sort of thing. And so I just want to make sure that we don't,
Have
We're
a
not
department
approving
get
all
the
of the-
lion's share.
we're not eviscerating any department in the town. And at the same time, we're not putting money where we should.
Yeah, nobody's getting the lion's share, everyone's been.
No one's getting rich, and I put the town budget together so there would be no layoffs.
Which is
is
key.
important.
That's probably the most important.
Now, the town budget is that way. I don't know what's
School.
coming from the other side. But if they're, they know that we have $800,000 in increased revenue and that's it. And we have budget busters, the joint accounts like the pensions, and we haven't even addressed the insurance yet. So I would say that if just looking at budget busters, you're looking at excluding increases in high school tuition, Bristol Aggie, and Old Colony, and the deficits. Budget busters' worst case scenario are $780,000. Now, it's going to be my job to try to make sure that health insurance doesn't come in at 10%.
Is the health insurance coming through Maya, or are we?
We're out on an RFP. We've got 6 entities that we've approached, Maya being one of them. Maya, for their current members, are between 3% and 10% increases, an average of 5.5%. They're not going to let us join for 5.5 with our record. Maya doesn't give you doesn't give you a big break, but over the long term, you want to be between 3 to 5% with Maya. Municipal Strategic Group, Mayflower, some of the others you can be lower. I don't know why you ever contracted directly with Harvard, but you got a 14% increase last year.
Mhm.
We know.
So it isn't salaries that's gonna kill us, it's these others. So in other words, I am justified in being concerned.
You're justified in being concerned, and I'm concerned because we are not doing a level service budget on the town side.
Okay, that's, I guess, for me, what would be helpful is if I understand what a level service budget would be on the town side, because I want to understand how we're impacting the residents. Like, what have we taken away? What services have we taken away that our residents are not going to have? To me, that's important to understand.
We haven't decreased to have the impact on services noticeable. But it could be, let's say, I've got a training budget in one department of $2,000 and I've cut it to $1,500, that
Yeah.
type of thing. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to make sure that we're nickel and diming to the extreme, purchasing what we have to purchase, and making sure for the future, especially with technology, we get stuff in place. And there are 3 positions you've got to fund in the marketplace: town accountant, treasurer, collector, and town planner / community development, economic development, whatever you want to call them. And those 3 positions, you're looking at $5,000 to $10,000 increase in 2 of them, and one a $20,000 increase. But that's it.
But that can be offset, especially if we've got somebody that's good at putting in and submitting for grants that are open there, by far.
Pays for itself in spades.
My town planner, between MVP, Complete Streets, and Mass Works, in over a 2-year period in Millbury, brought in $7 million of state money that we used for economic development. And after the whole project was done, I'm not there anymore, and neither is she. Northborough gave her a lot more money than Millbury could to bring her there, but I imagine, considering all the storefronts I've seen filled, all the new businesses, that their commercial tax base has gone up considerably.
Maybe we could get her, sweeten the deal with a membership to the golf course.
You couldn't afford her. She's getting what town managers in South Coast get.
All right, so, to go back to scheduling. All right, so we're gonna meet on the 15th.
I would say a number of the various,
So on the 15th, we're gonna, town clerk, fire, EMS, and police. Are we good with that?
Yep.
Right.
I think a lot of the ones I read that the Board of Selectmen already have done, you folks could do on the 8th.
What, in addition to park, library, and assessors?
Yeah, moderator, appeals board, forestry, cemeteries, veteran services, historical.
They don't all
Yeah,
come
but-
in.
Yeah, but we don't have to have somebody come in for,
No, but you have to,
Vote on them.
don't you have to hear, have them scheduled for our hearing, and then vote on the final?
If
I
you
think
have
it's a
questions.
level fund, yeah,
We've
for a
never-
level fund, we don't need to meet them.
We've never done that.
You don't have to bring them in, but
No.
don't you have to at least put them on an agenda?
Usually we had it on the agenda who we were gonna,
If there was a
Review.
question and it wasn't level funded, but I don't know.
So you're just saying have it on the agenda, but don't call them in?
Don't, well, don't call most of them in, but.
At the end of our hearings, then that's when we vote on all the
Yeah.
budgets.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Yeah, we usually
but
do
the-
that. We vote on that during our budget deliberations.
But
Once
that
we're
would
done-
that would give anybody who had an opportunity, or wanted an opportunity to talk on any of them to do that, but I
come
doubt
in.
if anybody will come in.
Right.
And if there's a question from you folks, I
You can
probably
ask it.
can answer it.
Mm.
And then the 7th, the select board Board of Selectmen's doing their budget, miscellaneous, legal, town building, technology, assessor. You should definitely, you're gonna wanna look at technology.
Uh-huh.
Treasurer, collector, accountant, COA, library, and rec and parks. So you could probably bring in technology, assessors pretty much close to level. If you wanted treasurer, collector, and accountant, I could talk on those.
Who's doing technology?
Huh?
Who's doing technology? You?
Uh,
Nick?
Nick. Pull Nick out of the closet.
Poor Nick.
All right, so Kathy, what do you have down for next week?
She's crossed out so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's try and hammer this out so we can move on and be
So
back here next week.
confirmed anyway was COA.
Well, that was tonight.
That's,
Yep.
yeah, she will.
Oh, sorry, no. I have that circled.
Correct, yeah, you crossed out something else again.
Sorry, library.
Assessors was confirmed.
Library, park, and assessors.
Right. So the other ones we have on here that we could, I guess, throw on the agenda would be what, tree warden,
Uh,
that's on this list,
moderator,
and moderator's not even on here.
appeals board, forestry or what.
But we don't have somebody that's physically gonna come in representing
All right.
that budget.
Yeah.
No, but I can represent them. But
Okay. I just don't, in the past, I don't remember us doing
forest,
these.
We didn't do
items.
anybody for
We-
forestry.
No,
all right, just,
I mean,
Are
occasionally.
you saying that we should do that for open meeting law requirements?
I'm just saying if you
Yeah.
just put the list there and if anybody ever asks, did you people,
They had an opportunity to come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, for open meeting law.
Okay.
or even if someone said, how come you didn't hear from X, you could say it was on the agenda on this date.
Nobody came in.
Yep,
but wouldn't the budget that we get that they send in and propose, wouldn't that be hearing from them?
they're
Unless we
not
have a question on it.
not proposing, they're coming to the Board of Town Administrative Board of Selectmen with their proposal, and we're giving you.
Right, but my point is they've already submitted. All
Yeah.
we're doing is reviewing.
Yeah.
And if it's anything but level funded and there's questions, that's when we would bring them in.
Yeah.
So that's what we did last year, and I thought it worked
All
well.
right, then, so, there'll be stuff like regional and stuff that if there's a question, because that's a new account number per se, but it's Serpent, $100 for the housing, thing from the state membership and, I mean,
But you'll be able to detail what that came off of, whose budget and what it's in, and
yep.
whether or not there's an increase over LY for that.
And
item.
it'll be in the margin of your budget that you get.
Okay.
For examples, we added something we needed to add in street lighting.
Like I just, like for that, for example with that, like street lighting, that's, in the past, that's something that would just, it would be in our booklet. And once we started taking up budget deliberations, we would vote on it.
There's always level funded.
We wouldn't actually have that on the agenda.
Yep,
We wouldn't have any of those things on the agenda.
okay.
So I'd rather not do it that way, in my
All right.
opinion. I'd rather just, let's have the specific people
Core departments.
from each department
Mhm.
come in, present their budget, and then all these other little ones that don't really typically change, you know, we'll take those up.
Mhm.
We can, you can do it with me.
Yeah.
Oh, the regional government expenses is a housing partnership, Buzzards Bay Committee, and regional assessment for Serpent, which is really a bill, not an assessment, but you had it as an assessment in the past. Part of it is probably my OCD and Todd's OCD of cleaning up the account book.
Well, that's worked out for us in the past, so.
Yeah, so on our list here, we also have conservation, historical. So historical would be part of CPC.
Historical, we added $500 difference, I think, there's a $500 difference.
Is that it?
Yeah,
All right,
from
so
last year.
there's really no point in calling that in.
$2,000 difference in the tree warden, that was police details. That,
It's a lot of details for not a lot of trees being taken down.
oh, there's been some trees taken down, you might not have seen them, but we want to pay for the details, we don't want the contractor to pay for them.
Okay.
All right, so next,
Use the town rate.
so going back to next week, February 8th,
Yep,
we're gonna have park, library, and assessors. So we're gonna have 3 departments coming in.
do you want to have historical tree warden at the same time, since they're very minor and they're on your list, or not?
I think he was saying we didn't want them to come in.
Is there gonna be somebody coming in representing that?
No.
No.
I'm not sure
We can
what, but
review the
maybe
budgets.
historical.
Yeah, it was just on this list that you put out.
All right, I mean, so Kathy, if you wanna add that
To the,
to the agenda, we're gonna look at those 2 budgets. So historical and what was the other one? Tree warden?
Tree
Tree
warden.
warden.
Yeah.
All right, so we can at least put a date next to that. So that'll be 2/8.
Do you,
And then the 15th, so you feel that the police, fire, and EMS will be ready to come in on the 15th?
They're going to the board.
So that's gonna be
on the
back,
14th.
so that's gonna be back to back. So they'll be,
fire is 0.65 decrease. Police is 0.1% decrease.
well, that's fine, I mean, but we still have to have them come in.
Yeah, no,
And
I'm
present
just
their
saying,
budget,
so
Okay.
it's close to level funded, so they're gonna be looking at these figures to that figures. A couple of the increases will be contractual, like the clothing allowance increase or something like
All right,
that.
so let's fill these in then. So February 15th, we're gonna have town clerk, fire, EMS, and police.
I think what I'm saying is there are probably not gonna be a lot of questions.
Okay. All right, so that leaves us, we got,
About changes.
EMA?
EMAs with EMS. We lump them in there.
Yeah, they're public safety.
So do we not want to meet on the 22nd during school vacation week?
No.
I will not be here.
All right, so we're not gonna meet on the 22nd then. All right, so then we're looking at March 1st as the next meeting after that.
The board is doing DPW sewer, water, and hopefully golf on the 28th.
All right, so on March 1st, we could have DPW and golf. Okay, so March 1st, DPW golf. All right, that leaves us with, I'm looking at the next,
Oh, sorry.
the groups. So Board of Selectmen, Conservation, Building Department, Planning Board, Board of Health.
Board of Selectmen could be done on the 8th if you wanted. They're meeting
On the
on
8th?
this,
So
they're
next
meeting
week.
on the 7th on it.
March 8th, I think, right, March 8th?
Oh, March
No.
8th.
Oh,
February, I'm just saying, the
Oh.
board will be done with their deliberations on it this February 7th, so if you wanted to include that in the 8th.
Be a quick
Well, because
review.
you'd be presenting that anyway. You guys want to add
I'm fine with
Yeah.
it.
add them to the 8th?
Yeah,
The
Just
sooner
to,
we can review it,
okay,
the better.
yeah. Take it out of crunch time.
all right, yeah, so, all right, so 2/8 there.
Well, and with fire and EMS done early, it saves us a lot crunch time wise. It's the schools that are gonna kill us.
Mhm.
All right, so March 8th,
Board of Health?
we have Board of Health, Planning Board, and Conservation.
Hopefully, we'll have a
Building Department,
hopefully we'll have a determination from the Board of Selectmen whether they're going to do a reorg or not by then.
all right, so we're gonna tentatively put March 8th for Board of Health. Conservation. Building and Planning. Now that leaves us with Old Colony and our schools.
We've asked the schools to break out Old Colony, Bristol Aggie, and high school tuition and transportation for the high schools. So we can actually see those costs.
And can we request yet again the full budget?
Because when we sat in here and they joined us a few weeks ago, they talked about condensing it and making a smaller, unified, presenting numbers in all together instead of itemized out.
I think I'd like what we had last year.
I want them itemized.
Yes.
No, I want more than that.
Who said that?
Our school department.
No,
They were talking
la-
about
last
presenting
year-
the budget in a more condensed.
No,
What,
we do
salaries
not
and
want
expense?
No.
Just-
No, we
They
want
said
more
everything.
no,
We want detail. They talked about less detail.
Which, after last year, we were told we could get it. I do want to see every line item filled out though, and I understand last year we were in deliberation, this year we're not, so we should be able to see every line item itemized out.
I'm not preparing it, I just.
No, how do we make sure we get it? Because this is a request every year, and then we get this modified version of something or other, which is incomplete and doesn't give us the detail that we need. Like, I don't care if I get an Excel, give me an Excel, man. Give me a nice Excel, I can work with that. You know?
I will,
Give me an Excel and I can
would
go to town
suggest-
on that, baby.
I would suggest you just send
No,
a communication.
after last year, with
wanna,
it, I'm gonna respond to Dr. Bailey's email and make
I
sure
I
we
would
understand
send
that.
it to Patrick.
Yeah,
Patrick.
the new school business manager, Pat
Do
McIntyre.
you
Mhm.
have his,
I have his contact information.
Okay.
I'll get it to you.
thank you, and I will put in the request, I'm assuming I can say it's, that we all requested, that the,
Sooner rather than later.
oh yeah,
And,
so we have time, and I'm gonna ask if you can send it
and
to us. So,
I would,
gotta export it, gotta do it.
I would
Yeah,
ask that you CC me and Todd, as well as Nick. Because as far as breaking things out of current expenses, they can probably assist.
Okay.
I'm voluntolding them.
The more the merrier. There's no such thing as too much information. Because we can easily break it up. Thank you.
When you were talking about having the school
Yeah.
budget broken down to show the various high schools, the busing costs and everything, can we make sure that that also includes the number of students? So we
Oh,
can
I'd
figure
like-
out what the per cost.
I would like to know that.
Because I can see them giving us the line item cost, but not a number of students that we can assign it to.
All right, so I think that the last date we had was March 8th, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So do we want to have Old Colony just come in by themselves?
That's what we did last time.
I was
I
gonna
think
say,
that's what we did.
That worked out well.
last time before they
And they're
came
probably gonna
in,
need a lot of time this time.
they had a meeting at their school where they called all the towns in and they presented the info. And I brought it back, we looked at it, and then they came in, I think, 3 or 4 weeks later.
I
So-
suggested, not on the budget, but on the building proposals, that Aaron come and talk to you folks and the Board of Selectmen again.
Together as like a joint meeting?
However, I told
Because that might be.
him the more he comes here, the more likely he is to have a pleasant experience.
I mean, I just,
At town
sometimes it's
meeting.
hard coordinating joint meetings, so I want to get our schedule set in stone. Yeah, so I think.
It
we're doing
doesn't
all
need
by
to be a
itself.
joint meeting, but I think he needs to come multiple times
right, well,
to
he
talk to people.
I think it'd be a good idea, he can come and present his budget to us and also give us some discussion on the building
And I think,
at the same time.
and I think there's probably, he should come another time right before town meeting. If things, because that's when they have to draft all the articles, and that's when the consensus among the 5 towns of
So,
what the article's gonna read, whether it's gonna be a 2-year borrowing, a 5-year borrowing, a straight payment for the feasibility study, et cetera.
If we're gonna do Old Colony by itself, they can address both things.
Mhm.
so I would
That's why I said we probably
So I would
should
say
just go
let's,
one step.
March 15th then, would be the next
That would
Wednesday.
be our school. the
Old Colony.
15th. Oh, Old
March.
Colony.
Out of school?
No, the 15th is gonna be Old Colony.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just them by themselves, because, you know, it'll be a little time consuming for him to go into the discussion about, you know, their building project, the feasibility study and all that. So, is everybody good with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so 3:15 would be Old Colony, and then we have our schools, I guess would be the next week,
On the 22nd.
3:22.
That's gonna be
Or is that gonna be
pushing it
too
as
close
far
for-
as
is that gonna be too
the
close for them?
warrant.
What do you mean?
Let me, I'll get you the town meeting scheduled tomorrow, and we can look at that.
You need 30 days or something before the warrant printing. Is that what it is?
But beyond that, it's when the board is planning to close it. So if the school has to change, I'm looking if there needs to be a change.
I mean, that's when we would typically have the school come in anyway.
All right,
It's usually the end of March.
Mhm.
It's usually,
Usually it's like the end of,
It's usually one
Actually, I
one
think-
weekend of April.
I think
last year.
actually through March 22nd is probably pretty
Right
early.
around the usual,
Yeah.
Alright.
or early,
It might
yeah.
even be earlier than we
All
would
right.
normally have them come
Yeah.
in.
I will send the board, the
So I
committee,
think 3:22,
what
Yeah.
the dates are for town meeting. Town meeting's the 20, right now, if the board approves it, is May 22nd, I believe. That's a
I think
Monday.
that should give us plenty of time then. Because then if we meet with the schools on the 22nd and then we start our
All right.
deliberations on the 29th,
We can,
we could have actually 2 weeks of deliberations and still have enough of a buffer.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think it's
All
gonna be
right.
fine.
Last year, we had the school meeting on April 13th.
So, yeah,
the
so
town.
that's right, I thought it was later.
April 13th,
Yes,
they
I-
had it at the school, because
Yeah, because we're condensing a lot of
Yeah.
departments, so this gives us plenty of time.
Yeah, we're 3 weeks
If we
early.
have any questions, we'll have plenty of time to have somebody come back in. Yeah. All right, everybody good with the schedule?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Kathy, you got all that, all the dates and everything? Okay.
There'll be 3 or 4 articles that we're looking at. That's it.
Okay, all right, good.
That's good news.
Right now, I don't know what will be coming in.
Okay, does anybody have any old business that they want to discuss? Does anybody have any new business?
I don't think I'll be able to make next meeting.
Okay.
I'll try to Zoom, I'm out of town for work, so, but I'll try to Zoom if I
Are we gonna keep the Zoom option in place?
What was it, March 31st,
Every
you
week,
said?
or?
It's
I
a
think
part of-
reoccurring, so
Yeah,
it
so we
is-
should, yeah. Yeah, in case somebody's sick and,
Yeah,
they can just,
and you can also hear from someone that you might want to ask questions of if they're
Right.
not available.
Okay, next meeting date is next week, February 8th, on Wednesday at 7 PM, same time, same place.
Same chairman.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.
Good night.